now would be a good time for you to just zero in on that for a second. There's a little Noah's Ark down there, a model that I put together years ago, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what it would have looked like and the ratio of the animals to the ark. And there's even a bulldozer and a fire truck behind it there, because they had those back then. No, just to give you a scale, a little bit of a scale as to just how big this thing was. And that will be our topic tonight is Noah's Ark. You can't see this. This is a book cover. It's called Noah's Ark, a Feasibility Study by John Woodmorappe, something like that. Very good book here. And he just gets into more stuff than you want to know about how they probably would have done this, how they probably would have done that. We're going to get into some of that tonight, but certainly not as deep as he does. One thing that I leaned heavily on this week was the Ark Encounter. Those of you who are familiar with that in Kentucky, they have a YouTube channel. It's called Ark Encounter. If you go to playlist, there is a Genesis account of Noah's Ark, and it's a 10-part series, and they get into all the little details. And so if you want to look that up for more than what, I'm just going to touch on things today and move on. But this is really, really good. I usually use creation.com, CMI, for those of you familiar with it. That is, to me, far and away the best creation site out there. But on this particular topic, Ark Encounter, which is part of Answers in Genesis, far and away is the best one. Because they have the life-size ark that they built there in Kentucky. And so anyway, there's that. The two things that you can turn to for more information on that, okay? So tonight we're going to talk about Noah's Ark. Up until this point, we've been talking about science, and good science, hard science. Tonight, we are not talking about science, okay? Tonight, we're not talking about the science of Noah's Ark, but we're talking about the feasibility of Noah's Ark. Is it feasible? Could it have happened? Okay? And the answer is, could it have happened? The answer is no. Okay? No, not without God. God has to be involved in it. God has to be involved in the whole process, obviously. Everything we've been looking at. But here, man enters into the process, for one thing, Noah and his family. Okay? And the other thing is, all the other stuff, there's all of this evidence and proof. We can look at tons of evidence for the flood, but what's the evidence for Noah's Ark? You know, not a lot. We have to go by what the Bible says. We don't have the ark, remains of the ark, to go and say, oh, there it is, right there. Contrary to what some of these documentaries have said, all of the reputable creation sites don't believe that we have found the ark, just so you know, okay? And we may get into that another time. But anyway, so this is really okay, is this feasible? How would this have been done? But we can't prove that animals came 2 by 2 to the ark. We can't prove, we can't prove any of this. So that's why I separate tonight out from science to feasibility, okay? All right, so let's get right into it. There it is, Noah's Ark, right? And this is, unfortunately, the Sunday school version of Noah's Ark that our kids see. And I get it, you want to make it cutesy, but it also gives a poor representation to the kids of what Noah's Ark was. And then you've got funny ones like this, where if you can't see, this is a woodpecker poking holes all throughout the ark, and Noah's trying to catch him here. Okay, Here's one where he's trying to fit an elephant into the ark and just can't seem to do it. And so there's all of these, cutesy things that give a poor understanding of what the ark would have looked like. Okay, so that's why I've got my model there, and this picture here. This is more than likely something close to what the ark looked like. We're given the dimensions, 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet tall. The Bible gives it to us in cubits. Anyone know how long is a cubit? Anybody know?
18 inches. 18 inches.
Yeah, about 18 inches from the tip of your finger to your elbow. Okay, so everybody's cubit is just a little bit different. So you give or take an inch or two. Okay, but basically it's about 18 inches.
Woody cubits.
Huh?
Woody cubits.
Yeah, woody cubits would be a 24-inch cubit.
He did say that.
So anyway, this is what the ark would have basically looked like, okay? So the golden ratio, this is very interesting. So this is the first boat that was ever built anywhere near this size. And it's interesting that even the boats today still use the same ratio that Noah's Ark used. How did Moses know what the perfect ratio was for an ark? Okay? And so every boat since then up until today uses the same ratio that Noah's Ark has. Okay? Let me just show you a little bit there. In Genesis 6:5, God instructed Noah to build an ark that was 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. This is a ratio of 30 to 5 to 3. As it turns out, these dimensions are the perfect ratio for a huge boat built for seaworthiness, a ratio that is still used today. Until 1858, the ark was the largest floating ship ever created. By 1900, every ship on the high seas was inclined towards the proportions of the ark, known as the Golden Ratio, verified by Lloyd's Register of Shipping in the World Almanac. Isn't that cool? That, way back then, before they knew what the Golden Ratio was, somehow Noah knew what the best dimensions were to make it seaworthy. And so the Titanic, all of them have this approximately 30 to 5 to 3 ratio. Cool stuff. Wonder how he knew that. So here we're going to talk about the size a little bit. Okay, that's the ark compared to a football field. So you could put 1.5 football fields in the ark per level. Okay, so it was huge. 3 levels, we're told in the Bible. And each of them could support a 1.5 football fields. Okay? This here, the Wyoming schooner, is that how you say that word? Schooner, built in 1909, was one of the world's largest boats ever built, wooden boats ever built. It's interesting, wood boats, because they're made out of wood, they twist a little bit. And Noah's Ark is about as big as you can make a wooden boat. You start making it bigger than that, and it starts shifting and twisting and starts leaking. Okay? Matter of fact, this boat here, which was a little bit smaller than Noah's Ark, tended to leak. And the problem there, though, was it had sails. Remember, Noah's Ark is a barge. It's just floating. It's not going anywhere. If you put sails on it, now the wind is starting to twist things and make things go like this, And so that's what would have caused this boat to leak a little bit. But Noah's Ark did not have sails. It wasn't going anywhere. It was just floating, okay? And so, like I said, if you try to make a boat any bigger than Noah's Ark, though, with wood, it probably wouldn't work. So again, somehow, Noah knew what is the biggest that we could make a boat that is going to be seaworthy. No smaller, but no bigger. Somehow he knew that. How did he know that? This gives you an idea of the size of Noah's Ark compared to some other ships. So this would be the Santa Maria here, okay? And that boat, you know, I looked it up, the Mayflower had about 100 people on it when it came across, okay? So you can see it's considerably smaller than the Ark. This is the Wyoming one I just showed you. Getting closer. The Titanic is bigger than the Ark, and then of course there's the Queen Mary. And now they've got these behemoths, that they've got out. But it's interesting that it wasn't until the late 1800s that there was ever a boat built that was the same, that was actually bigger than the Ark. Okay, so could the Ark hold all the animals that were needed in the Ark? So we need to look at a couple different things here with that. Okay, here's a little cartoon that I found, someone making fun of the Noah's Ark thought. It says, "It is indeed a miracle that Noah managed to fit 2 of each animal on the Ark. The San Diego Zoo needs more than 1,800 acres and a considerable staff to house and feed only 3,800 animals." Okay, so there's that. Yeah, this is silliness. And to the evolutionists, this is silliness. Okay, and that's why we don't want to come at this as though it's science. Okay, this is our belief. This is what we believe happened. Okay. And according to everything else that we've seen, which is absolutely scientifically feasible, we therefore take a step of faith here to believe that this happened. But a step of faith that's rational faith, because like I said, how did he know the perfect dimensions? How did he know make it this long and no longer? You know, stuff like that throws in a little bit more credibility to the topic. Okay? There's another picture of trying to fit all of the animals on the Ark. Okay, and these are the pictures that the critics look at and say, yeah, there's your creation science there. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Okay. Okay, so the Bible tells us that Noah was told to bring 2 of every kind on the Ark. So the question is, what is a kind? In the order of taxonomy, where would kind enter in? Because the critics always say, Noah had to bring 2 of every species of animal on the Ark. Do you know how many species of animals there are? You know, if you count bugs and birds, there's well over 1 million of them. Oh, and 2 of each. So 2 million animals on the Ark, is that what you're telling me? Okay, no. We don't believe species went onto the Ark. I mean, we don't even believe genus came onto the Ark. We believe that the family came on the Ark. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers there. How many animal families are there? Okay. And this is according to just an online thing that I looked up, giving the approximations of the number that are in these. Okay, so if we're looking at species of just animal, which he would have taken on the Ark, looking at 331,000. Okay, times 2, that would be almost 700,000 animals that he would have had to take on the Ark if he's doing species. Okay, genus, there's about 73,000 times 2, that's about 150,000 animals he'd have to bring on the Ark if it was genus. But family, there's only about 6,000. And that is where all the reputable creationist sites that I went to believe that kind fits in the closest. God isn't using our measurements and that kind of thing. But if we're going to try to fit kind into that order there, they believe that family is about the best place to put that. So now we're down to about 12,000 animals now. okay? Which is doable. So we're going to look at that. Raise your hand, ask questions, make comments as we're going, yes?
I just have a little comment, because I went in March to see the Ark Experience up in Kentucky, and they had dinosaurs on there.
We're going to talk about that.
Okay. That surprised me, you know, it's like, okay, I know we've been talking.
We don't miss anything around here, Becky. We're doing it all. Okay, so with dogs, for instance, I showed you this before, but we'll just do a quick rerun here. Here's all the different species of dogs, okay? So did Noah have to bring in 2 beagles and 2 dachshunds and 2 Great Danes and 2 Pomeranians and 2 all of these, okay? The answer is no, okay? He would have only had to bring in 2 dogs, okay? And all dogs, even non-creationists agree, come from a wolf-like animal. Okay, let me show you one little article here on that. All dogs are descendants of a wolf-like ancestor. This ancestor had the genetic diversity that allowed people to breed dogs as different in size as a Chihuahua and a Great Dane. Over many hundreds of years, humans have produced the various breeds by specifically selecting different traits to breed for. There are currently over 200 distinct varieties, and I think it's higher than that now. But all belong to the same family and could theoretically breed with each other, though size difference between larger and smaller breeds renders some combinations unlikely. Okay? But again, this is a non-creation site. This is a BBC documentary here, and they acknowledge that we, people, have made the breeds of the dogs, okay? And all you'd have to do is go back, 500 years and just assume that, nobody's breeding, and you would find a wolf-like ancestor that all of these breeds came out of, okay? So, the point is, Noah would not have to have brought all 2 of every kind of dog on the ark. He would have probably brought 2 wolf-like animals that God would have sent that had enough genetic diversity within them to allow for all of the different breeds of dogs today, okay? So instead of 200 varieties times 2, that's 400 dogs. Instead of 400 dogs, 2 dogs, okay? Same thing with all the other different things. Horses, would you have had to bring in 2 of every kind of horse that there is? No. God sent the animals to Noah, right? He probably would have sent the right animals to Noah, okay? But even outside of Noah, everyone agrees that all of these horse species come from one horse originally, okay? That even the evolutionists would say that. And that's what we say, except we say that's what happened after Noah's Ark, okay? And even the dinosaurs, Becky. You think, oh man, there's hundreds of different dinosaurs. How could he fit all of those dinosaurs? Again, it would be the same thing. For instance, we've all heard of Triceratops here, but there's all these different kinds of ceratops, but he wouldn't have brought in one of each of these. He would have brought in one pair of Triceratops. Now, why, this is something that, we're so made fun of, is that Noah brought dinosaurs on the ark. What a joke. You guys are such clowns. Why do we say that? Why do we say God brought? Anybody?
Because of Job.
Okay, one answer is Job. Who said that?
I did.
One answer is because of Job. Was Job before or after the flood?
Yeah.
He's after the flood, and Job describes, and we did it 2 weeks ago, I think, describing 2 different kinds of animals that are descriptions of nothing that is alive today, but fits very nicely with a couple different kinds of dinosaurs. Okay, so that's one answer there, absolutely. Anyone else? Another answer would be, God said, take 2 of every land-dwelling animal, okay, that has the breath of life in his nostrils, okay? So that means we wouldn't have had to bring bugs, okay? Bugs typically don't breathe through their nostrils, they breathe through their skin, okay? So we wouldn't have to bring, I don't know where he would have put all the fish. Where would he have put all the fish? In the ocean, yeah. He wouldn't have brought fish on board, okay? But it says everything that has breath through the nostrils. So do dinosaurs breathe through their nostrils? Yeah, they did. So we would just rationally say, okay, there you go, yeah. And then again, all the history that we've seen that 2 weeks ago on just the historical sightings of dinosaur within the memory of humankind tells us that there were dinosaurs then, and therefore they had to have survived the flood. How would they have survived the flood? The only thing that survived the flood was Noah's Ark. So that's why we believe dinosaurs were probably on the ark. We'll get more into that in a minute. So in the feasibility study thing that I just showed you, he says that they're being generous to include extinct family species. Remember, we said 6,000. He's using 8,000 just to play it safe, okay? Totaling 16,000 animals that would have had to have fit on Noah's Ark, okay? Buoyancy, would it have stayed afloat? Okay, again, you see a picture like that, like, no, they're in trouble, deep trouble, okay? But then you see real pictures of what it would probably look like. And again, the dimensions were just right to allow it to be very feasible for it to have. And you know, we don't know all the details. God could have kept the boat, Noah's Ark, in fairly calm waters. Again, we're not talking science here. This is clearly a God thing here, okay? And God could have easily have kept the ark in areas where it wasn't that horribly bad, you know, with waves and everything. But this is interesting. This is a group of master's students from the Department of Physics from this university. This is not a Christian school. I have no idea why they did this study, but they calculated that Noah's Ark would support 70,000 animals and still remain buoyant and be able to stay afloat. Okay, that's interesting. This is not a Christian school that did it. They just decided, hey, let's look at Noah's Ark. Let's look at its dimensions. Let's look at its, ratios and all that. And, assuming, and they could, you could stuff 70,000 animals in there if you had to, but to make them survive for a year would be tough, okay? But they said even if you got 70,000 animals in there, it would stay afloat and be able to handle the ocean. It's interesting. Okay, so only about half of the space on the ark would be needed to accommodate 16,000 animals. Only half. How many have been to the ark encounter? Raise your hand here. Okay, my family's planning on going here this summer sometime, and I'm looking forward to that. But they've gone through all. That's why I say look at their videos, because man, they have. What did they do with the waste? Everything you can imagine, they have taken into account at this ark exhibit, and it's very, very interesting. Okay, so the ark would be equivalent space-wise to 522 railroad stock cars. 522, okay? Now, inside of a stock car, you can fit 250 sheep in each stock car, okay? So that would make a total of 130,000 sheep that could fit into the ark, okay? Again, they're crammed into this as they're traveling. So you wouldn't want to put 250 sheep in here for a long period of time like Noah's Ark. But the point is, that's how big the ark was, is you could fit 130,000 sheep on there, about 16. And they say sheep because sheep is about the average size of an animal. There's much bigger ones, there's much smaller ones, and actually most animals are, if you look at an average, they're smaller than a sheep. Most animals are smaller, not bigger, than a sheep.
Oh dear.
Yes.
I don't want to take over, but I was hearing something that they were saying because sheep need a shepherd, they can't survive without a shepherd, that they could not possibly have evolved, period.
Oh, okay.
So,
Hmm.
that's just good trivia, but it's scientifically factual.
Interesting.
They're too stupid to make it. Yeah, they are.
Okay. So, here's our 522 railroad stock cars here. Okay? Look how many are there. That is the availability of space inside of Noah's Ark, right there. Huge amount of space available. This is a tractor trailer here. If you were going to do it with tractor trailers, you could have 483 tractor trailers. Okay, and that's what all of this is. It looks like it's some kind of weaving or something, but those are tractor trailers to show you how many tractor trailers could fit inside of the ark. Okay? And this particular model here uses school buses. If you read the back there, it makes the comparison to school buses. How many school buses could fit in the ark? And I don't remember the answer, but it's a lot. Something like 400 and something. So, all right. So, question is, how did they fit these big animals onto the ark? Here's Noah trying to shove a big dinosaur into the ark. Okay, so I got a big dinosaur, and I did bring dinosaurs, Olivia. There she is back there. She says last week, you always give away DVDs for the grown-ups. How about something for the kids? How about dinosaurs? She didn't say it that way. I'm just making fun. But there is a box there of dinosaurs, and any of the kids who want to come up and grab a couple dinosaurs, they are more than welcome to, and the youth also if you'd like to. Okay, but you can't have this one because I need him for camp. Okay, because I'm going to be doing junior camp up on the mountain at CMR this year, and I'm going to be doing this topic for the young kids. Okay, so anyway, very important that they hear this stuff. So here's a big dinosaur again. Imagine him, this guy. What is our answer to that? Duh. How simple is that? You don't take grandma and grandpa onto the ark. Give me several reasons why we don't take grandma and grandpa onto the ark. Okay, wait a minute. Raise your hand and. Okay. Mary?
They can't reproduce.
Okay, grandma and grandpa are done reproducing. The whole purpose of them coming onto the ark here is to reproduce and after their kind and supply life again. But what else? What other reasons? There's other reasons.
There's that.
Uh-huh.
Health of the animal.
The health of the animals, for sure. They're going to live a lot longer and therefore reproduce probably many generations into the future. Okay, there's still other things though.
Their size.
Okay, there's our picture right there, their size. If you're not going to take something like that, you're going to take something like this, okay, onto the ark, right?
It won't eat as much.
Exactly, they won't eat nearly as much. Huh? Hey, no, that's part of the feasibility thing, is they're not gonna poop as much. Exactly right, exactly right. And so there's all of these reasons why, and we're not just talking about dinosaurs here, okay? We're talking about elephants, giraffes. You don't bring big ones. It wouldn't make any sense to bring big ones, okay? Here's two big rhinoceroses. He probably didn't bring two big rhinoceroses. He probably brought two infant rhinoceroses. Look at the difference of size. I mean, this thing, it doesn't matter how ugly an animal is when it's grown up, they're always cute as babies. But what about the large dinosaurs? How do we get them on? Well, large dinosaurs used to be small dinosaurs, okay? They've figured out pretty much now that, as far as they know, most dinosaurs were hatched in eggs. We found many fossils of dinosaur eggs now, okay? And you might think, well, a T-Rex has got to lay an egg the size of a car, right? No. The biggest dinosaur fossil egg that they found is about the size of a football. So your biggest dinosaurs were in an egg the size of a football, okay? So they start out very small. So it would only make sense that you would bring little ones, conceivably even eggs. Exactly. I mean, we have to use our imagination here a little bit. The Bible doesn't tell us that, but that's conceivable. It's feasible that they could have brought eggs. It's feasible that, the Bible doesn't say it, but some have suggested God could have brought a hibernation onto the ark. And the animals slept through the whole thing. God couldn't do that. Again, this is not science that we're talking about. This is talking about faith and the Bible and that kind of thing, but it's feasible, a feasible faith. But, I mean, it's not atrocious to think that animals do hibernate, okay? And you put them in a dark place, like the ark would have been fairly dark. It's possible that God could have made every one of them on the ark go to sleep for a year. That would take care of a lot of the problems that we're talking about. Okay, so the question is, could ancient man have built such a boat as this? This is the ark encounter here. This is actually a life-size ark here that they built. It took them about a year and a half to build it. But that's, of course, with today's available construction stuff. How long did Noah have to build the ark? Possibly as much as 100 years. Okay? And did Noah build the ark by himself? That's the next question. Okay, well, we at least know that he had 3 sons who were married. So there's 7. But again, the Bible doesn't say, but it makes sense that that he had hired help to help do this also, okay? It says, okay, Noah built an ark. Does that mean that Noah built the ark? Well, it says that Solomon built the temple. Does that mean Solomon built the temple? No, he just coordinated the whole thing. He was the chief. Noah would have been the chief, and there were hundreds, probably thousands of people helping build the temple, okay? Could have been very similar to a situation like here. If Noah was wealthy in some way, he could have hired who knows how many people to build the ark. Okay, but the question is, even if he had a lot of help, could ancient man have built such a thing as this? So my question is, could ancient man build something like this? Obviously, right? Because this is ancient. The pyramids are ancient. The Sphinx is ancient. These were probably built shortly after, maybe within couple hundred years after the flood. And yet, ancient man was able to do this. Okay? Look up sometime a documentary on how the pyramids were built. They're still not sure, but they were. That's the point. There they are, right there. Okay? And the interesting is they're not just big, and it's said that they took about 25 years to probably build these things. But this is a Lego version of the Great Temple. And just showing, the reason I put this here is because it shows you a cutout of the inside. It's not just this big block thing. There's tunnels in there, there's rooms in there, there's stairways in there, there's all kinds of interesting things going on inside there. So it wasn't just, okay, let's just make this big pyramid. There's rooms in there. It was a tomb for some of the pharaohs. And so anyway, this thing is even today, they would have a hard time building this. Okay? But they did it. They did it. How about this? Could ancient man have built a wall like that? This is the China Wall. Could ancient man have done that? Ancient man did it. There it is, right there. Jerry.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this. Would God have chosen someone other than Noah if he believed that Noah could not do it?
Exactly. Again, going back to God's in charge of this deal, you know? And again, we have to remember, and we haven't gotten into this too much, but when God created Adam and Eve, he created two people who were physically, mentally perfect, much smarter than we are, okay? And ever since then, it's been going downhill, okay? All you gotta do is look out there to know that, right? But aside from what's going on out there, we know that genetically, man is getting worse and worse. Evolution says, no, man is getting better and better. We know genetically we're getting worse and worse. There's more diseases. Every year there's more mutations in our bodies that are destroying us. And we have to come up with new drugs and new everything to fight all of these things. And we're doing an okay job trying to fight them. But man, it's a challenge trying to keep up with genetics, what genetics is doing to the human body. Back in Noah's time, he would still have been way above us. Now, they didn't have computers back then, because we have computers today because people have built upon, technology. It said that, Galileo was able to understand what he understood because he was standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay, meaning Capernaum before him, and so on. And they didn't have the technology that we have then, but they had more technology than we recognize because they had to have. Do you know this wall is a absolute phenomenon? Okay, it is, I looked it up, 17,000 miles long. I mean, you can see it. It goes here, comes down, goes up here, goes up the mountain, goes across there. It's going up the mountain right there. It is tremendous. Here's another one. Okay, it goes. And it goes and goes and goes. Ancient man did this. So to say that, ancient man couldn't have built an ark, say, well, could ancient man have done this? Clearly they did. Could ancient man have done this? Look at this. Anyone know where this is? Petra. Ancient man did this. Look at that. I mean, there's people down there. How did they get up there and carve all of this out of the face? This used to look like this. And they carved it all out. That is astonishing. Okay, there's another one that's in Petra. This is over in the Middle East area, Israel area, Jordan, I believe. Yeah. So again, the idea that ancient man was primitive and they didn't have any technology to do all this stuff. Well, then how did they do all this stuff? Okay, so that would be my answer there. Where was man capable of doing that? How are you building on it? This book that I suggested gets into all of this. How did they make lumber? How did they cut out boards? How did they join boards together? How did they, I mean, it just gets into much more than you've ever wanted to know or ever thought about asking. Okay, but it's very interesting and it's very faith affirming to know that this is feasible. Okay, for instance, I'm not going to get into all of it, but this here is called mortise and tenon planking. Okay, and so they didn't have screws and power drills and everything back then, but they did have this technique where they used different, little boards connecting other boards with holes, and you put a dowel through there. And this is an ancient Greeks used this technique back in the 7th century BC to build boats. Okay, where did they get this technology? I wouldn't be surprised if it came through Noah, But this kind, again, the people who say, well, no, Noah's Ark would have been too big it would have sprung leaks. This technology for wood this would not break apart. I mean, a mountain would have to fall on this to break these kind of board connections here. This is an ancient plank with that whatever it's called. This is from the 2nd century BC. They pulled up a boat from the bottom of the Mediterranean, and it was done. It was made like this, and this is part of the wood that they use that technology there. So. Anyway, that book and these videos, watch these, and there's more videos on the Ark Encounter. Just has a ton of videos on there of like, oh my goodness, wow. This here is a church, the Church of the Transfiguration. This church here was built using no nails and no screws. This entire thing, no power tools. It was handmade with just wood. Okay, no nails, no screws, anything. So you can see what can be done.
Where is that church?
Church of the Transfiguration. I don't know. You'll have to look that one up. I didn't make note of that. It looks like something Russian Orthodox or something like that. Okay. Church of the Transfiguration. Just look that up. But here's just an idea of the technology that they had back then to do this. Okay, they would have probably had these kind of cranes. Again, we look back in time and you look at some of the battles that they fought and the things that they had back then. Yeah, what is that called? Like catapults and that kind of thing. It's like, oh my goodness. It's just amazing what they were able to do back then. Okay, so again, don't think of they want to make us think these guys were cavemen, or ape men. They weren't quite evolved yet, and that they were just not very smart. No, these people were much smarter than probably anybody in this room. Okay, and they had the ability to do it. And some of us crazy creationists think they may have even used dinosaurs. Okay? I mean, they're using elephants there. Why wouldn't you use a mammoth, to do it? How did Noah find all the animals on the ark? My goodness. How did he find all the animals on the ark? He didn't. Exactly. Again, this is why I say we're not talking science here. talking feasibility, we're talking about what can our God do, you know? And he's the one that brought the animals to Noah, right? It wasn't Noah who had to go hunting for kangaroos and koalas and all that, okay? I think I have too much left to try to finish today. I would have to run through it. There's a lot of more stuff here that I'd like to show you about the flood and the feasibility of it. But one of the questions I would ask is how would a koala or a kangaroo, I'm going to answer this next week, how would a koala or a kangaroo get to the ark? They live in Australia. There's a big ocean between them and
There is now.
what Jim just said. There is now, okay? But as most of the creationists believe that there was one landmass at the time of Noah, and that he would not have had to, the kangaroos wouldn't have had to swim, okay? The next question is, how would they, after the flood, get to Australia? Because now the continents are separated. How would kangaroos and koalas get to Australia? Does anyone want to take a shot at that one? Mm-hmm.
They returned to their home.
Yeah, but how? Did they swim?
No, it was all one landmass.
No, but after the flood, it wasn't one landmass anymore. After the flood, the continents look like what we have today. Okay? So now how did they get back?
How about the big ice mass that showed up after?
What's that?
How about the big ice mass that showed up after the?
Okay, so this is what we're gonna get into, because that's part of the answer right there, is next week, because I don't want to start this now, because I'd have to cut it right in the middle. We do believe that there was an ice age after the flood of Noah, not turning the world into a snowball like evolution wants us to believe, but we believe what the evidence says, that there clearly was a glacial, glaciers that came down further than there are today in the past. So we do believe that there was a ice age, and that is the answer to how, and I will get into, this is your carrot to come back next week, okay? Of how they would have gotten to Australia, okay? But that's a big part of it right there, all right? Any questions on what we talked about tonight so far? I just hit on a whole bunch of different things. Look at some of those videos if you want to. I didn't want to bore you to death with, how do you do every little thing, yeah.
I want to know how you know, through the Bible, that we had all these different land masses after the flood. Could these land masses have separated at a later time?
Well,
You gotta use the Bible to tell me how that works.
yeah, and again, I can't tell you from the Bible. We can just say, according to our understanding of what would have happened during the flood, and the fountains of the deep, that's your basic scripture there, the fountains of the great deep that came up. It wasn't just rain that came down during the flood, but it says the fountains of the great deep opened. And huge amount of water that was in the earth came out of the earth. And in order to do that, it would have had to have breaking apart land masses. Okay? And so we look again, it's not so much in the Bible, but it is, we look at in the Atlantic Ocean, and we see this, what do you call it? Earthquake things.
Tectonic plate.
The trend.
I'm hearing too much. That thing where like false, that's it, false. From the South Pole to the North Pole, there is this fault that was clearly opened up and separated the land masses, yeah.
Just feasibly, like the History Channel did a report on the Ark, and they said it was possibly in the Turkey area, Arafat, where it says biblically
We'll get into that next week. Where did Noah's Ark land? We'll get into a little bit of the some of the documentaries a little bit that claim to have found Noah's Ark, but spoiler alert, you know, none of the reputable creation sites believe that we've actually found Noah's Ark. Okay, it may be something that that God, you know, opens up in the future for us to find when maybe when he comes back, because he does say. Let me end with this. The New Testament, it's not just the Old Testament that tells us that this was a real event, okay? The New Testament tells us this also. Hebrews, whoever wrote Hebrews, says, by faith, Noah, when he was warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. Okay? Is this just legend? Well, before, you know, verse 6 talks about Abraham. Was Abraham a legend? Right after, you know, verse 8 talks about whoever's after Noah, you know. And so the point is, Hebrews, talking about all of these historical people, mentions Noah and the fact that he built an ark to save his family, okay? There is 1 Peter, who says, to those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built, in it only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. Okay? Peter seems to think that Noah's ark was real. Okay? So it's not just, you know, can we trust what Moses wrote? Whoever wrote Hebrews believed that it was real. Peter believed it was real. And who's our most important person that believed that Noah's Ark was real?
Jesus.
That would be Jesus, yes. First of all, Jesus, in his genealogies, it says that Jesus is related to Noah. Noah is in Jesus' genealogy. Therefore, Noah was a real person, okay? But then Jesus says this, as it was in the days of Noah, there he is, a real person, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man, the second coming, okay? Now, if this was a myth, maybe the coming of the Son of Man is a myth too. No, he's not talking about a myth here. He's talking about a real person. For in the days before the flood, there's the flood, people were eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage up until the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. And that is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. And he goes on to explain that a little bit more. But the point is, Jesus believed that Noah was a real person, that Noah built an ark, that there was a flood that took them all away, killed everybody. He believed that story, okay? That alone, aside from everything else that I've just shown you, that alone should say to us, that's all I need, okay? Jesus believed it. Well, either Jesus is God and he knows what he's talking about, or he's, you know, believes in myths and believes that that his ancestor was a myth. Okay, and that's what some of the, you know, the disappointing part in some of the intelligent design people who claim that, you know, the first 13 chapters of Genesis is really just mythology, and it becomes history at the time of Abraham. But before that, it's really all just mythology. Well, if that's the case, then Jesus is related to a myth, okay? And we know that's not true, all right? Okay, I'm going to end it there. I will say I have DVDs here. Let's talk about this for just a minute, since we have a minute. This one's called Darwin's Dilemma, and it is about the Cambrian explosion. Anybody ever heard, raise your hand if you've heard of the Cambrian explosion. Wow, not too many people. Okay. This is talking about the Cambrian explosion, which in evolutionary terms was the Big Bang of life. Okay? So again, they believe that there's all these layers and that the bottom layer represents life, long ago and then closer until today, right? Well, the Cambrian explosion is this, that on this level here, there's no life. There's no life. This is what we would call original creation surface here. But the very next layer that's laid down on top of it is full of life. Boom! That's what they call the Cambrian explosion. Now in their understanding, and this isn't our understanding of it, but in their understanding of it, all of this life just suddenly, bang, there it was. Where did it come from? No evolutionary build-up to it at all. It just shows up, this level of life, filled, this layer of life, of rock filled with fossilized life. Where did it come from? And it's called Darwin's dilemma because Darwin says, when I think about the Cambrian explosion, it makes my head want to explode. Because it doesn't match up with what his theory says, that all of that life built up from something else. No, it's just nothing, and then the next layer, boom, everything. So even in their understanding of the Cambrian explosion, they believe it was millions of years ago, but even in their understanding of it, that is the Big Bang of life. And even in their understanding of it, it doesn't make sense. Okay? So that's what this is it takes you through their understanding of the Cambrian explosion, just showing you that even evolutionists, even in your understanding of the Cambrian explosion, it shows creation. Okay? We don't believe that layer represents millions, the early life on the earth. We believe that that's the first incoming tide of Noah's flood that killed tons of life. Okay, and below that is creation, rock. No death under that because there was no death before Adam. But then this first layer is Noah's flood coming in, and there's life everywhere in it. So again, we don't believe it was early, evolution or whatever. But anyway, if you'd like one of these, it's very interesting to show them, even in your understanding, Mr. Evolutionist, of evolution, the Cambrian explosion proves creation. So anyway, if you'd like one of them. Any comments or questions before we end? Next week we'll get into all kinds of very interesting stuff concerning this, of, why are there flood legends all over the world? Where did those come from? Tons of fun stuff like that. So I encourage you to come next week for that. Okay? Last chance? Okay, look, we ended on time. How do you like that? All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for your word. Your word is truth. And again, we just, there's certain things, Lord, that we can look outside and see the evidence for it. This is one of those things that we must take by faith. By faith, Noah, when warned about these things, not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. And by faith, we believe that, Lord. We believe it. And we thank you. And again, we ask that you would use this series to not just make us smart, but to help us affirm our faith, to know that your word is truth. Your word is truth. And the fact is, Jesus is a descendant of Noah. And that is what all of this points to, that Jesus is the ark. We'll talk about that another week. But Jesus is the ark. He is where we turn to for salvation. So I pray that you would help affirm that in our hearts, Lord. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Yeah, another thing, how did Noah close the door of the ark? And seal it up from the outside?
God did it.
God did it, thank you.